Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday, day after Christmas. Peace. Hope y'all are doing good. Hope you slept well last night. And now you're here with me today. I'm happy to be here. Had a great day yesterday. Slept like a baby last night. Even though my jaw still hurts. My jaw and my cheek from having that tooth pulled a week ago still aches. But, we just keep on plugging along, don't we? So today we're going to talk about how emotionally intelligent people handle toxic people. And I also, in my journaling and listening to podcasts this morning, I have determined that when I was raising my children, that I was toxic. From dealing with my ex, because he was a toxic person. And a lot of that toxicity rubbed off onto me. And I need to get rid of it. And I will. But I hate that I was toxic to my children, because that means their life was miserable. And I know that. And it breaks my heart that I put my children through that shit. I could just kick myself for not ending the marriage sooner. But it's done. It's over with. Now, all I can do is try to make it up to my kids, if they'll allow me to do that. And I hope they do. I know Bo is letting me make it up to him. Well, let's see, I am making it up to him. I'm paying his rent and feeding him and paying for his car and paying for everything. So, okay. So, we're going to get past that. I'm learning to not be such a toxic parent or a person, because I don't want to be toxic to people. I know that I don't like it. I don't like being around toxic people. So, toxic people defy logic. Some are obvious to their negative aspects on others, while some enjoy causing chaos and provoking people. Either way, they create unnecessary complexity, strife, and worst of all, stress. The effects of stress on the brain. Studies have long shown that stress can have a lasting negative impact on the brain. Even brief stress impairs hippocampal neurons, critical for memory and reasoning. I think that's why my memory is so lapsing, missing pieces, because I was in such a stressful relationship that a lot of the stuff I don't remember. And I've tried to explain that to my son, but he doesn't understand how I don't remember. Well, Hopefully he will watch this and he will hopefully be able to understand why. I don't remember a lot of that. It's starting to come back, but I don't readily remember it. I have to be given a clue as to what was going on for me to kind of remember some of it. It's like the other night I had a strangest dream as to when all this stress and toxicity started. I can almost to the day realize when it started. It started, I originally thought had started in Royal Oak when we lived there. But it was before that. It was in Wilmer. I can see it. I can see myself on the phone with Martin about the move. And him telling me that we have to do this, that this is the best thing for all of us. So I agreed that we would move. And I talked the kids into it. That's where it started. That's where it started. I should have stopped it right there. But we got to Royal Oak. Things were going okay. We were in a 3-bedroom house. Keith and Bo had a room, and Tara had a room, and and Martin and I had a room. But that's the time period that it started. I can see it. So, okay. Identifying and managing work stress. Oh, the effects of stress on the brain. I got lost in there. Prolonged stress damages neurons, dendrites, and sustained stress can destroy neurons permanently. And I did have sustained stress for 30 years. Stress is a formidable threat to your success. When stress gets out of control, your brain and your performance suffer. Absolutely. That's why I couldn't hold a job. When we lived in Detroit, in Royal Oak, I had a great job working for Consumer Pulse, a consumer research group. And when I first started the job, I did great. I was one of the best producers. And Barbara just loved me to pieces, liked what I was doing. In fact, was in the process of promoting me to supervisor when we decided that we were going to move again. Yes. Bo had been in kindergarten for 6 months, and we moved from Detroit to Virginia. That was stressful on Bo more than anybody else because he was in kindergarten, and I didn't think it would be that stressful on him. I really didn't. But it was. You know, he had his bestest friend, Harold, little Korean boy. That was his bestest buddy. And we moved him from that to an area that was not good for him. The school, after he was in school for a week, they call me and say he can't stay in school because he's too young. Okay, maybe I pushed that a little bit. Just so I could get him into school and I could get a job. So I could get out of the house. Because if I had a good job, if I could find me a good paying job that would give me what I needed to support us all, I could have left him. But I didn't. Because I couldn't find a job. I couldn't get a job where I could stick to it. Because I had so much stress at home that I'd get to work and I'd just screw it up one side down the other. So I lost my job at Consumer Pulse. I was a supervisor. Loved it. But I lost my job because I couldn't be there when they needed me there. Because my husband couldn't help in any way with the kids. So, that was my managing work stress. I couldn't handle work stress because I couldn't handle home stress. So I didn't keep a good job. I had stress at work. And I felt like I couldn't say what I wanted to at home about the stress that I was having there, or even about the stress I was having at work. Because if I was having stress at work, well, it must be my fault, was what I would get. It must be my fault. Something I'm doing wrong. Whether it was or not, it was my fault. Power of emotional intelligence in toxic people. Recent research from the Department of Biological and Clinical Psychology at Friedrich Schiller's University in Germany found that exposure to stimuli that cause strong negative emotions, the same kind of exposure you get when dealing with toxic people, cause subjects' brains to have a massive stress response. Fight or flight. Whether it's negativity, cruelty, the victim syndrome, which I probably had some of that, or just plain craziness, toxic people drive your brain into a stressed out state that should be avoided at all costs. The ability to manage your emotions and remain calm under pressure has a direct link to your performance. Research by Talent Smart EQ with more than 1 million people shows that 90% of top performers excel at managing stress to stay calm and control. One of their greatest gifts is the ability to neutralize toxic people. And that's what we need to learn to do, is neutralize those toxic people so that, number one, we don't become one of them. Because if you're around enough toxic people, you're going to turn toxic too. Top performers have well-honed coping strategies that they employ to keep toxic people at bay. And we're going to learn how to do that. Okay? Dealing with toxic people, a strategy guide. I've discovered many strategies for handling toxic people that successful people use. Here are the top 12. To deal with toxic people effectively, you need an approach that enables you across the board to control what you can and eliminate what you can't. The important thing to remember is that you are in control of far more than you realize. So, the 12 strategies are: they set limits, especially with complainers. You must set limits, whether you're dealing with toxic people or not. You need to set limits with yourself and with others. And we'll talk about each individual step as we move on. But right now, we're just going to go through the steps, and then we'll go through them individually. They don't die in the fight. No, toxic people don't die in the fight. They may walk away, but they don't die. They will still be toxic people. They'll still be toxic. They rise above. They think they're better than everybody, and they're way up here, and we're way down here. To that idea. They stay aware of their emotions. They keep their emotions at bay. They don't use their emotions. They will be the type that just basically just talks like this and doesn't use any emotion. Very, very emotionless. They establish boundaries. We all must establish boundaries. There's things you don't want people messing with. Don't want them messing with your mind, with you. Absolutely. They won't let anyone limit their joy. Hell no. They will ruin your joy, but don't you dare. They won't focus on problems, only solutions. And that's what we should all do. Look for solutions, not problems. Once you get a solution, the problem's gone. They don't forget. We don't. We don't forget toxic people. We know who they are, and we know to stay away from them. They squash negative self-talk. I used to talk negatively about myself all the time. Your teeth are ugly. Your hair's ugly. You're too fat. You're too this. You're too that. I don't say that anymore. My smile is pretty. My hair's just where I want it to be. My body's where it wants to be and where I want it to be. I'm 71 years old, and if people don't like the way I look, fuck them. That's my whole philosophy. Is if they don't like it, fuck it. They limit their caffeine intake. Absolutely. I used to guzzle that stuff. I'd leave home with a cup of coffee this big. I worked 30 miles from home. I would finish that cup of coffee by the time I got to work and fill it up again. So I was always on edge. And anytime I would, because my boss was a toxic bitch. You know, so whenever we would have run-ins, because we were, both big coffee drinkers, but we would get into big fights, big arguments. Once I cut my coffee intake, I didn't have that issue anymore. They get good sleep. Let me tell you what. I used to not get a good night's sleep when I was working in Maryland. I rarely had a good night's sleep. Toss, turn, because of not only the stress at work, but the stress at home. My husband expecting me to go to work and find some guy that I could take to the bathroom and give a blowjob, give oral sex. That's what he wanted me to do during my breaks or at lunch, is to give oral sex and take pictures of the junk in my mouth. I learned how to fake it and I hope he learns about this, because he needs to know that I fucked him over too. But I learned how to fake it with some ranch dressing and a little bit of water to thin it out a little bit. I would get that in here and take a picture, and he thought I had cum in my mouth. Didn't know the difference. That's how dumb he was. But I had trouble sleeping because of the turmoil that, number one, my husband was wanting me to do all this stuff. Number two, I was lying to my husband. I knew that was wrong. But I had to do something to keep my sanity. Keep me where I needed to be. Otherwise, I would have just fallen in full force. Because I was like, whatever. And that's what happened when I got to Texas, because I didn't have it an out. But I had trouble sleeping. They use their support system, and that's what I do. I use my support system. When I get stressed, I will take 10 deep breaths. And I tend to relax doing that, or take Snickers for a walk. And I really do. I tend to not get as stressed as I used to. I don't have stress. I don't have my husband in my life anymore. He can't stress me out. Only thing right now that's kind of stressing me out is that I have to do this impact statement before going to court, before going to his trial. And I'm not used to having to do that. I tell my story, but when you put it down on paper, it looks different. So, it's weird. But I'll get it done. I have to have it done by the 8th of next month. And I will. I will. I just have to keep at it and keep doing what I'm doing. And my support system is great. I have my mother, my son, I have friends. I take Snickers for a walk. I meditate. I listen to the different motivational podcasts on YouTube. I do all this to get my head in the right place and find myself. I'm starting to find myself by remembering things that took place as a child. It brings me closer to finding out who I am. Because I haven't known who I was for a long time. It has probably been close to 40 years. Because I met him 40 years ago, and I don't know when exactly he started taking my mind away, taking me away. And he did. And me is coming back. But right now, me needs to go because my mouth, my jaw is starting to ache. And it hurts it's kind of aching to talk. So I will peace out. We will talk more about this tomorrow. We will go through each of the 12 steps, explaining what we need to do to move forward. Okay? Love you all. Take care. Remember to like, subscribe, share, comment with anything you would like to discuss, or if there's something that I spoke about that kind of hit the nail on the head for you, let me know. That way we can work together on improving ourselves. All right? See you later in